I wonder if the Ministry of Defense of the Second Army in the world understands what a disgrace it is to post footage of North Korean soldiers participating in the battles for the Kursk region. The influential Telegram channel Sir Pompo writes about this. Or when the great geopolitician, in pathetic grotesque, thanks Kim's soldiers and expresses his gratitude to the leader of a small rogue state with a dirty nuclear bomb in his bosom. We pay tribute to the heroism, high level of special training and dedication of the Korean soldiers who, shoulder to shoulder with Russian fighters, defended our motherland as their own. They fulfilled their duty with honor and valor, covering themselves with unfading glory. The Russian people will never forget the feat of the Korean Special Forces fighters. And all this year, after your own press, Peskov, back in October 2024, denied the presence of DPRK troops in Kursk. Just like official Pyongyang, whose official news agency has now also changed its tune and is talking about the fight against Ukrainians acting as the vanguard and striking force of the imperialist powers seeking to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. The result was another episode of Putin's classic "they're not there" in Donbass or polite people in Crimea, followed by a session of self-exposure when they first disowned them and then publicly acknowledged them. But the usual lies, from raising the retirement age to resetting presidential terms, are one thing, but publicly admitting the inability to protect one's own borders after invading others is quite another. And at the same time, the great geopolitician manages to puff out his cheeks and turn up his nose even at Trump's rather loyal proposals for a peace deal. Given that, if we are to believe the Z-bloggers, the military at the front are on the verge of physical, technical and moral exhaustion after 3 years without rotation and Pyrrhic victories that did not solve a single known goal of Operation Y. And numerically, if they have to bring in soldiers from the north of the Korean peninsula, recruit guest workers and their own prisoners and alimony payers, Peskov says that Russia, if necessary, can also provide military assistance to the DPRK in accordance with the agreement between the two countries. Against whom? Peskov? The armies of the United States, North Korea and Japan? Do the Russians need this too? Our 38th parallel, like the non-Ukrainian Zaporozhye you proclaimed, the core of historical Ukraine? And how can you help a regime that relies on Juche and has driven its own people into your war communism when you yourself cannot do without Iranian shaheds, Soviet tanks of the 60s, 70s, Kim's recruits? At the same time, you are afraid to conduct a new mobilization in a broad sense, while simultaneously demanding military and political capitulation from the West and Ukraine, lifting sanctions and resuming economic cooperation. You guys should make up your minds there. Weirdos.
The Pakistani army on Monday shot down an Indian quadcopter for violating the country's airspace near the line of control, Pakistani military sources told Xinhua. The incident took place in Manavar area of Bhimber district in Pakistan-administered Kashmir where an Indian drone was conducting surveillance, they said. The army immediately took action and successfully intercepted the drone, the sources added. There were no reports of casualties or damage from the Pakistani side. Experts collected the fragments of the quadcopter for further study. Tensions between the two neighboring countries remain high, with frequent reports of ceasefire violations and aerial surveillance attempts along the line of control. Earlier, Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif said that Pakistan and India could go to war within the next 2 to 4 days. He noted that Pakistan would respond with full force if necessary. The country is already in a state of heightened readiness. However, the head of the Defense Department added that nuclear weapons will only be used if there is a direct threat to the existence of the state. There has been gunfire in the border area on the line of control between India and Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian Army said in a statement. On the intervening night of April 28 to 29, the Pakistan Army opened unprovoked small arms fire across the line of control in areas opposite Kupvara and Baramulla districts, the report, quoted by PTI, said. The Indian military responded quickly and effectively, the statement said. There were no reports of casualties. The ceasefire on the India-Pakistan border has been violated for the fifth night in a row amid tensions between New Delhi and Islamabad following a suicide attack in Jammu and Kashmir that killed 26 people. The Economic Times newspaper, citing government sources, reports that India is considering closing its airspace to Pakistani carriers and banning Pakistani ships from calling at Indian ports. As the publication points out, Pakistan would then have to reroute planes via China or Sri Lanka to reach destinations in Southeast Asia. State-owned Pakistan International Airlines uses Indian airspace to access several destinations in that part of the world, including Kuala Lumpur and other Malaysian cities, in addition to Singapore and Thailand.